The final stop of NASCAR's Goes West Tour is in the Valley of the Sun. 40 minutes away from downtown Phoenix in Avondale, Arizona, sits the unique 1-mile track of Phoenix Raceway, a teaser of what's to come when we return for the championship in November. With Ford struggling and Chevrolet surging, will Hendrick Motorsports' dominations continue at Rattlesnake Hill? We are 312 laps away from finding out. The 75th anniversary of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing presents to you round number 4 of the 2023 campaign, the United Rentals Work United 500. It is a perfect day to go racing. Small cloud cover with 80 degrees Fahrenheit, no rain in sight with an 8-mile-an-hour wind west-southwest of the track, but there is a possibility of some wind gusts here that can get up to as high as 27 miles per hour.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the very first episode of MDK Race Day 2023. My name is Jett. Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday morning. As you can see, I'm in a completely different space. I'm over at my buddy Adriel's house in Texas, so not the usual setup. Just this will all be back to normal by next week. But we start off with some news and notes from Hendrick Motorsports. Over the weekend, NASCAR confiscated the louvers from Hendrick Motorsports' cars at Phoenix Raceway from all 4 Chevrolets. NASCAR will bring them to the NASCAR R&D Center for further evaluation next weekend in North Carolina. During initial inspection on Friday, league officials discovered a potential issue that needs further examination. Hendrick cars were permitted to use those louvers in practice, with officials taking them after the opening session at Phoenix. No penalties for the Hendrick cars announced this weekend, and any potential penalties will be announced next week. Okay, so a lot of people are looking at this issue as favoritism involved, as with NASCAR with Hendrick Motorsports, and with an issue like this. Remember, with this next-gen car, any potential changes or anything like that cause for big ramifications. We saw this with RFK Racing, Michael McDowell as an example. Now, of course, if NASCAR finds any ramifications with this adjustment or with this change to their louvers, obviously the penalties are huge. Something along the lines of a 100-point penalty, $100,000 fine, multiple suspensions for the crew chief, and so on. So what happens next weekend will be very interesting, whether or not NASCAR finds any type of adjustments. Now, we do know the last time NASCAR and Hendrick Motorsports had to deal with the penalty was back in Texas last fall with William Byron. We saw how that went, how confusing that went, where initially it was handed down, then it got repealed to basically a lesser penalty where they just gave out a major fine, and Byron got to keep the points like 2 weeks later. So Hendrick Motorsports and penalties are in a bit of a weird situation, but it'll be interesting to see what happens next weekend once potential penalties are announced. Now let's take a look at the playoff grid after Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the third race, three different winners. William Byron now colored in green. He's locked into the championship. Then you got Ross Chastain plus 60, Alex Bowman plus 57, Harvick plus 39, Suarez and Truex 35 and 33 respectively. Then you got teammates Hamlin and Bell 30 and plus 25, Logano plus 23. RFK teammates Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski running really strong so far to start off the campaign. Kyle Larson plus 16, and Bubba Wallace currently holds the final playoff spot, 16th, tied with Austin Cindric, his buddy Ryan Blaney plus 12. Corey LaJoie, the first one out, minus 1. AJ Allmendinger minus 15. Ty Gibbs minus 16. Then you got others like Eric Almirola minus 17. So it's still very early in the season. Lots of potential drivers that are having strong runs to the campaign. Like I mentioned, RFK Racing, both their cars are running really strong. And also Corey LaJoie. I mean, currently he is out of the playoffs, 18th minus 1. And also Corey LaJoie, I mean, he is currently out of the playoffs, minus 1 below the cut line. But still, look at that team where they were last year, how they started out the season compared to now. Very strong improvement. Now let's take a look at the odds to win at Phoenix. You have the Penske boys, Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney, 8-1. Kyle Larson with a 9-1 shot. Denny Hamlin, a former winner, at 10-1, as well as Ross Chastain and Martin Truex Jr., as well as Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, and Kevin Harvick. Last week's winner, William Byron, 12-1 shot. The defending race winner, Chase Briscoe, with a 20-1 shot, as well as Alex Bowman. Tyler Reddick trying to change his season. Last weekend in Vegas, he showed some speed, is now 25-1. Daniel Suarez, Bubba Wallace, 30-1 and 35-1. Brad Keselowski, 4-1, as well as Ryan Preece, Austin Cindric, former Xfinity champion, as well as Eric Almirola and Ty Gibbs with a 51 shot, and Eric Jones. And now let's take a look at the starting lineup on who will start where for the 2023 Cup Series race at Phoenix. Once again on the front row is Kyle Larson, just barely won last week in Las Vegas, sits alongside former Cup winner here at Phoenix, Denny Hamlin in the 11 car. Row 2 has last week's winner, William Byron, starts again on the front row, near the front row in the 3rd position, starts alongside Brad Keselowski, former Cup Series champion. Great run for that number 6 team. Row 3 has a Bell and the Mellow Man. Christopher Bell in the number 20 car has been in victory lane a couple times last year. Ross Chastain in the 1 car starts in the 6th position. How about the run from Michael McDowell in that front row team, starting in 7th place, sits alongside fellow Ford Ryan Blaney in the 12 car. Fontana winner Kyle Busch has also been in victory lane here multiple times before, sits alongside Eric Jones in the number 43 Legacy Motor Club Chevrolet. Row 6 has Daniel Suarez for Trackhouse Racing, the 99 car, and Tyler Reddick trying to get back on track in his career starts in the 12th position, the 3rd highest Toyota driver. A brace of Toyotas in row 7, Martin Truex Jr. and teammate Ty Gibbs in the 54 car. Truex, a former winner. Kevin Harvick, the king of Rattlesnake Hill here, 9 times he's been to victory lane, sits alongside Joe Logano, a former Cup champion and winner here at Phoenix. Josh Berry replacing Chase Elliott for the 2nd time this weekend, sits alongside Hendrick teammate Alex Bowman in the 48 car. Bubba Wallace and Austin Cindric make up row 10. Row 11 has Chris Buescher, number 17 Ford, sits alongside AJ Allmendinger in the 16 car for Colleague Racing. The Daytona 500 champion Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starts alongside the defending race winner Chase Briscoe. Got his first career win at Phoenix last year, sits in the 24th position in row 12. His Stewart-Haas Racing teammate Ryan Preece starts right behind him, sitting alongside another colleague driver in Justin Haley. Wood Brothers Racing's Harrison Byrne will sit alongside Corey LaJoie in row 14. Todd Gillen in a new car this weekend, being replaced by Zane Smith, who will drive the number 15 Rick Ware Racing car, sits alongside Austin Dillon. Very disappointing start for him, 30th position back there in row 15. Another disappointing start for Eric Almirola, starting in 31st position, sitting alongside fellow rookie driver Noah Gragson in the 42 car. BJ McLeod starting alongside Zane Smith in his 2nd Cup Series start this season in the number 38 car, replacing Todd Gillen. And finally rounding out the field, Ty Dillon in the number 77 car alongside Cody Ware in the 51. So on Friday, we had a very rare 50-minute practice session with all cars on the racetrack. So we got a lot of stuff to learn. First of all, this race is wide open, I think. But once again, I think this race is going to come down to who can stop Hendrick domination. Kyle Larson, once again, top of the charts. Fastest overall, but he was the fastest in the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 lap averages Kyle Larson was. On top of that, he's starting on the pole. So that 5 car is bad fast, not only on the short run, but also on the long run. One thing a lot of us were wondering when we at first saw that practice session was Toyotas. They were struggling a little bit early on, but I look at the 2311 drivers. Bubba Wallace was in the top 10 throughout the entire portion of practice. To me, he looked like one of the more consistent Toyota drivers from that practice session, as well as Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick on the short runs, 5 to 10 lap averages, wasn't up there. But when you get into the 15, the 20, 25 lap averages, he was up there in the top 4, top 5, and even up to as high as 2nd, I think, on the 30 lap averages. So the Toyotas seem to have speed on the long run, as well as Christopher Bell also showed some speed. Another team we're going to look at is the Fords. Team Penske, we're trying to see if they can rebound from an abysmal last weekend at Las Vegas. Both of their drivers, Blaney and Logano, running very well, very consistent. Again, up there in the top 5 in the 5, 10, 15 lap averages, and around the top 10 in the 20, 25, and 30 lap averages. Another team I look at is Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who is, I think it could be a dark horse. He also showed a lot of speed in practice on Friday. Looks like he qualified 23rd, so maybe his car is built more for race speed rather than for qualifying. One thing will be interesting to see in this race is that this is, again, the first race of the new aero package. The simplification of the diffuser, less of those lines on the bottom of the car, even smaller spoiler, the small spoiler we have seen in quite some time. So cars are going to be more on edge. That's one thing we heard a lot of drivers say, is that the car's going to be more on edge. So you could anticipate more cautions, more mess ups, which I think will be a very entertaining race. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, which drivers can keep up with the racetrack. I know NASCAR, they put the resin and the tire drag it down in turns 3 and 4 to try and improve that racing lane. Will it work? Don't think so, but we'll see. But this is going to be a test session also type of race to see what does a potential future look like for NASCAR on short track, since last year, while the next gen thrived on the 1.5 miles, it struggled on the road courses and short track. So this is an introduction of what could the future look like with this next gen car on tracks like Phoenix that are a mile or shorter. But as much as I talk about the other drivers, the Penske boys, but as much as I talk about the other drivers, you have to include two SHR cars. Chase Briscoe, the defending winner, and Kevin Harvick, the Rattlesnake King. 9 wins, an unbelievable record at Phoenix. But he hasn't won there in quite some time. I think the last time he won was back in 2018 was the last time we saw him in victory lane. So it's been a while, but you still cannot count out Kevin Harvick. 6th fastest overall, virtually in the top 5 for the entirety of all lap averages in that practice session, but qualified 15th. Again, tells me more that maybe that 4 car is set up for a long run for green flag conditions. But I think it's going to be a very entertaining race. I think RFK is going to show up. Brad Keselowski qualified 4th in this race. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. Run very strong. Both of them are those cars, not just Brad K. I look at the Toyotas of 2311 Racing, specifically those two drivers. I know we talk about Joe Gibbs Racing. Christopher Bell, I think, will be a factor up in the top 10, but that 23 and 45, they got something there that I think we need to keep an eye on. But I think at the end of the day, when you have all this competition, you got to look at Hendrick Motorsports, that domination that they have, specifically William Byron and especially Kyle Larson. I think Kyle Larson, he had that Vegas win in the bag until that caution came out. He's looking for vengeance. I have Kyle Larson going to victory lane in this race. I have him winning for the first time in 2023 to become the 4th different winner and go back-to-back for Hendrick Motorsports. Now, will it be a dominating race like last weekend for William Byron? I don't know. Again, with the new aero package, it throws a whole new curveball into things. So I think the race is going to be more unpredictable, but I do expect to see Kyle Larson, at the very least, lead the most laps. Maybe not dominate, but at the very least, lead the most laps. But that's it for this show. What are your thoughts? Who do you think is going to win this race? Who do you think is going to perform well? And who do you think is going to struggle? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank y'all so much for watching. Until next time, my name is Jet from MDK. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the race. We'll see you later for an episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop, recapping everything from Phoenix. Thanks for watching.